Recording in progress.
Good morning and welcome, members of the Harbour Area Committee, staff, and those online. We have no apologies today to call any declarations of interest.
It's just a couple of times. Boston contract.
Thank you, George. Moving on to page 6, 3.1, confirmation of previous meeting minutes. Do you have any discussion on those? If not, someone be happy to move that we received. It's true and correct. Is that a question? Moving? Yeah, thank you. Move Graham Clark. Seconded Councillor Ryan. All those in favour? Against? That's carried. Item 4.1, we're moving decision reports, market scope and budget, and I'll let Paul introduce. Josh, sorry. Oh, Eric.
Good morning all. This report pertains to the tenders that we've let to develop the farmers market area and the parking area adjacent to Scott's. Essentially we have a budget of $735,000 available currently for these improvements. We had, as you would have previously been aware, developed a concept plan for the area, and we have been out to the market for tenders. The total cost to do everything that we had in the concept plan came in at a little over 1.5 million. We always understood we'd have a shortfall as far as our funding to do the whole lot, and that we would need to prioritise. So hence the need for this meeting to have that conversation to prioritise what we do want to achieve down there, and also to discuss whether we seek additional contribution from council. Council has always been keen to see the farmers market area improved. So essentially what I'm recommending in my report is that we complete the stage 1 of the farmers market area plus the adjacent parking area between Scott's and Tyne Street. So that would enable us to finish off that area and have that whole area nice and tidy. As part of that work, it is recommended we will not formalise the new exit to Waterfront Road, which is indicated as part of stage 1. There's an indicative cost of another 78,000 on top of what I've presented to you, on top of this project budget. So the works I'm proposing would cost approximately $880,000. So we'd be seeking an additional funding from council of about $145,600. Happy to take any questions.
I find this a wee bit confusing between your urban park stage 1, stage 2, and trying to put it together with your areas. It's a bit like a double up here. You got preliminary and general, you got urban park stage 1 and urban park stage 2. Does that relate directly to area 3, or have I got that totally wrong?
You are correct. Urban park is the farmers market area 3.
So we're looking at spending 680,000 on that small area 3.
No, I'm recommending we go stage 1 of that area, not stage 2.
But you got stage 2 there. Your total cost is you're looking at 680,000 for that small area.
That is the $1.5 million total project if we were to do everything that we put into the original concept plan down there. The original concept plan for the or the list of requirements that we wanted for the farmers market area included a number of things such as a mobile stage and things that weren't able to be fit within the initial $340,000 budget. So essentially we broke the farmers market up into 2 stages, or stage 1 and stage 2, both of them with $340,000 target price when we went to the market.
It seems a lot of money for that small area. And then we've got parking area 1, which is, I understand there's a tender for that. And my understanding for the price of that tender was considerably lower than the 537,000 that's there. So I did just briefly ask the question of how much extra cost goes on top. I am privy to some of the tender rates that went out because of other contractor associations. That 1.5, it seems quite high to me.
Yeah, so the tendered rates for the parking area 1 is about 350,000. But then we have the project costs on top of that of the surveying, the consents, which of which there's a number, including Heritage, Regional Council, contamination planning. We need to do quite a number of contamination reports for the asbestos and the contaminated site. It's a whole site under the regional plan, and then there is project management costs and a contingency of 10% on top of that. So it's effectively, yeah, came to 530.
Thanks, Eric. Just on the contaminated part, is that cost built into the preliminary and general? Because I notice it comes up in the next paper.
The cost of dealing with the cost of the reports and the investigation and the management plan for the contamination is part of the preliminary and general. The cost to deal with asbestos is part of what I put into the parking area 1. So the cost of actually doing anything about it is part of the price you see there.
Just on that, the asbestos is one way of dealing with it, just the fact that we're sealing over it and covering it up.
We can't just seal over it as it stands. It's in organic material, material that isn't ideal as a base for sealing. So we actually need to remove about 200 to 300 mil of depth to get back to a hard surface, and then replace that and then seal over top of that. So that material, that organic material we need to remove, needs to be put somewhere. So what we're looking to do is actually just move it to adjacent to where it is, effectively cap it there and create a mound or a garden in this close proximity. And then it's a known site all in one area. The other options are to effectively try to take that volume away and dispose of it. Until we start excavating, we won't know exactly what those volumes are, but it's a very costly process to do.
Eric, could you give us any indication of the size of the portion in area 1 that it refers to?
Certainly. So area 1 effectively, if you look at page 17, so area 1 is what is shown in yellow. It's effectively to the end of the Scott's store area. So where you have the alleyway basically across the back of the Scott's area and out to Waterfront Road, I'm proposing we don't do that component of it.
Thank you. There's a couple of questions. So the recommended option, is that enough work to be completed to meet the TIF criteria? And then can you just explain a little bit more about what stage 1 of the urban park covers? Is like what is included?
So to your first question, yes, TIF's contract is very loose. Basically is for marketplace and parking improvements at the harbour. We had to put up 50%. Effectively, we will through this be looking to put up more than 50%. So in terms of meeting their criteria, we'll be fine with that. As far as the marketplace stage 1, if you go to attachment 2, there is a plan on page 26, which shows what CREO are essentially proposing for stage 1. Now, this is still a concept, and in working and engaging CREO to do this work, I would be looking to actually work with them to get a detailed plan that we can actually review and make sure we're happy with before they actually go any further. Their concept is a little bit loose. They were the only tenderer for the marketplace area. There's no denying they have the knowledge and the skills to do the work, but we still need to make sure that we get value out of that work. So I'd be working with them to nail down exactly what they can do, make sure that it is of value. We also do have a local business who's interested in working with Creo to design and create plant boxes. So we'll be trying to leverage some benefit from that as well.
Look, obviously, Councillor Hopkins had asked me, I know these are just a creative design to give the committee some sort of idea, but he was just, his input was that it looks quite nice on this page. So as long as we try and keep it in keeping more with the heritage and industrial thing.
Thank you very much. Just want to explore the options around the 2 stages of parking. And we've been given separate pricing for each of those stages. Are we likely to get any benefit of scale if we were to do both at the same time? And also related to that, how much do we have sitting in the Harbour Endowment Fund at the moment that might be able to be utilised for that? And further to that, this is an opportunity to recommend to council that we actually sell off one of the areas that are in that car parking area generally to help fund some of this.
So in terms of the other parking areas, yes, we got prices for all of those. There is benefits in doing them all at the same time around establishment of the machinery, but also in terms of doing it all now, contractors are hungry at the moment for work. So, it is timely to go and do those works if council determined it could afford it. Sorry, the second question. Harbour Endowment Fund. Yeah, the Harbour Endowment Fund is about $1 million. 1.22 million is sitting in that at the moment.
Just Herbert's view on the potential to actually look at selling pieces of land to help fund this.
It's certainly something the council has always wanted to do. It's probably a case of the process and the time that it would take to run that process. So I would suggest you could send that signal or that recommendation, but it wouldn't be something we'd be able to implement immediately.
Thank you. Just on page 13, there's the options for additional funding. You mentioned the better off funding. I was of the understanding that DIA wouldn't allow a change in proposed use for those funds. So could you confirm for me if that is actually a realistic option? And secondly, regarding the Harbour Endowment Fund, we've obviously got the balance on paper of 1.2 million, but could you just confirm for me if we were to agree to spend the additional 145,600, that ultimately that would result in a further 145,600 of external borrowing?
To your last question first, an allocation of additional funding from the Harbour Endowment Fund for this project will not enable additional external funding. We have our allocation from the TIF fund for this. That is the amount they're giving us. So you won't get additional external funding from that. As far as the better off funding, my understanding, and I'll defer to Josh in this, is that it is for placemaking on the route. I believe it's up to the council to determine what placemaking is and what their priorities are. I'll let Josh speak to that.
Sorry, just to clarify, the question wasn't about external funding, it was external. No, you said borrowing, but so yeah, there's no external funding, so it would be an increase in borrowing to provide the actual cash flow to our project.
With respect to the Better Off Fund, testing my memory a little bit, I believe that the works are associated with undertaking revitalisation activities and placemaking activities within the CBD. What is the term of the CBD is a little bit loose. So hypothetically, it probably could be spent there, but it would mean that some of the other activities that are planned possibly wouldn't then occur. So it's a bit of a way up of where you best spend those funds.
Yeah, I'm sorry, this is a lot that's new to me and I've been watching it, but just a couple of questions. Why is Area 3 taken out of Area 1 is the first question. When it would seem that that's where your farmers market is, would you not seal the whole thing and then dress it up afterwards, do it in stages rather than do it? You know, we're in a tough financial position, and in my opinion, from a rural perspective, there's been a lot of money put down in that harbour already, and it's done very well. But it's aimed at the tourists, and we've also got to look after the rest of the district. So by just sealing that whole thing, that would take that whole side off. You've got your farmers market there, and then you can put your planter boxes and do whatever you like afterwards, and just do it in a slower stage. That's just a comment.
That's certainly an option, but it wasn't part of the brief that we were given and that we took out to the market. We were understood that there was to be a different atmosphere, a different surface, something more in keeping with an urban park. So the intention wouldn't be a continuation of the parking surfacing. It would be something unique, special, or different. But that is an option.
So the ceiling of area 1, does that include the road? Is that going to be a formed roadway?
The entranceway of Tyne, yes.
Second question. So I'm always harping on about this, but the way station that sits there, we have discussed from a heritage angle of doing something with that. And I mean, if that was going to be a roadway, that whole area, if it's not going to be developed immediately, but obviously should be tidied up. And is there any way that we could do something with the way station and give it some sort of meaning, maybe picketed fencing and photographs, interpretation games?
If the Harbour Committee wanted to recommend that to be included in the scope, but we would need to fund it somehow. I also wonder personally whether all of the community is on board with doing that. It might need a bit more work or investigation as to whether that's the best option.
Thank you. If with your permission, Councillor Holding, I'd like to propose an amendment to the wording in option 1, which would remove the words on the third line down, remove the words an additional 145,600 from Harbour Endowment Fund, and insert in that space allocates potential better off funding reallocation on further analysis, consideration and recommendation from officers towards, and then the rest of that option remains the same.
I just wanted to make a comment just so, because not necessarily everyone understands what the endowment funds and loans have to do with each other. Essentially, there's money in the endowment fund that's loaned out to community purposes like the retirement village and so forth. So if we want to use that money, we can, but essentially we have to borrow more to basically repay it back into the fund to use it from there. So it's just the money go round aspect of that. So what it shows on our books is an increase in borrowing, but actually it's balanced off by a decrease in the amounts in the fund. So just, I don't know if that was clearer or not, but hopefully that's helpful. Mr. Chair, just on the situation, I think DIA has been fairly clear that if we can find, if we haven't allocated money for uses for the better off funding, then we should be using it on water. And I think now unfortunately trying to reallocate it would be problematic, in that they would be able to say you haven't committed it to anything, so it can be spent on water. So that's my understanding of that situation. So hopefully that's helpful to Councillor Blacklist. lack of getting a second on that one.
Well, I think it's probably that's also been approved by council, the allocations of some that we had left over to different projects, and we put that's removing. Yeah.
No, there was a slight amendment which allowed further work down the line. If I believe that was made by Councillor Hopkins. Yeah.
So the yellow area in the map is obviously the area that's perhaps designated for sale. So and also getting back to the way station and funding, the Heritage Fund perhaps could be available for some of that.
As far as I believe, Graham, I don't think any work's been done to prepare it for sale, but it has been on this map as an indication of possibility of future development.
Yeah, that's correct. We're asked to show those areas as potential areas for future development, just so we're clear with the community in doing this. And also that's part of the intention of not selling those areas, so it's quite clear that it's a different space and used for a different purpose.
Okay, in that case though, but it shouldn't be left as a gravel pit. Like what I'm trying to say is it should be tidied up as part of this, even if it's not going to be sealed. It needs to be tidied up for the whole look of the place.
Just getting back to Councillor McCain's comments about Area 3 and Area 1. That might be very nice and everything else to have a different surface in there, but the amount of money that's being spent there, I think that it's a massive cost saving just to put that in with your initial contract and seal that whole Area 3 and Area 1 at once. And you can dress it up as you want for the farmers market area. I'd be a little bit against putting a whole heap of concrete or permanent things there. Times change over time. And if the sealing's done right, I don't think there's anything wrong with that surface for the farmers market. And it might solve some of your financial problems.
Mr. Chair, I think we're at a point where we need to get something decided. So I'm going to move recommendations as they are. Okay. Just speaking to that, we're very mindful of affordability and the pressure and on rates and everything. This is also though a project that has been through a very stringent community process to come up with the plan particularly around the farmers market. There's been ongoing discussions for years and years about what that could be and should be, and the idea of having a permanent space that is not only attractive but it's very versatile as well is important. I can totally understand the passion for a larger sealed area from a quarry man, George. It is in some senses a practical solution, but equally it's not going to provide the amenity that we're hoping to get with this area, and to try and redesign that now, I think it's a little bit late. Add to that the fact that we've actually got TIF funding for the majority of this work around the farmers market and some of the car parking. I think that sort of takes away some of the concern around where that money's coming from. So I think this is an opportunity for us to take a step. It's unfortunately it's only a half step because we're not doing the whole area quite the way we want to do. There may be an ability to tidy up some of that future development area, whether it's just make sure it's level and a bit more uniform. Anything more than that, I think we then raise expectation. It's always going to be a car parking area. It's something we need to be mindful of that actually things don't always change. Expectations get raised and then they stay there. That's what current use is and shouldn't change. So that's where I'm standing on this one. I think this is about carrying out the master plan in an affordable way, utilising external funding where possible, and trying to make the most of what we can in a fairly tight situation.
No, I agree, and I think the farmers market is quite an important space, and having it look a bit different will just add to it, and it adds to the area as you as you come around towards the harbour. I think it'll just make it a lot more attractive. So.
No, I just echo Dr. Agnew and Mayor Kirch's comments. I think it's a positive step that we can take. A lot of work's gone in to get us to this point, and yes, I guess there's a lot been done in that area for the tourist community, but you just look at the farmers market on a Sunday and you see how many locals and what that does for our local community as well. So it's just something to make that area look better and benefits a lot of people.
I'll be voting against the motion today on the basis we've got a subject matter expert in the room expressing concern of a significant debt profile ahead of us, and we're aware in recent weeks there's an excess of 1.5 million of better off funding that remains unspent and with potential for reallocation. And along with that, council agreed last week not to increase budgeted external borrowing from what was set out in the enhanced annual plan. And I believe we should be refining the scope to meet the original budget in the current climate.
Yeah, I think happy to take the report as read, just for the sake of time. It is obviously we've had a good discussion just now on the marketplace zone, which has been the majority of works being undertaken. There's a few other projects there where there's some work happening. There's still some delays on the installation of services at Holmes Wharf, which is unfortunate. It's again down to contaminated material, high lead levels in the soil. So working through that process at the moment. Sorry, I see some shaking heads there. It's one of the issues of doing a whole lot of recreational type work in what was essentially an industrial area. We just have to deal with things.
Do anyone have any questions on that one? Just on the streetlight renewals, Josh, is this new design or the new lights that are being picked up, are they the same as the ones we saw in the original plan on the wharf extension? I just noticed in here it says these ones will be black. Are they what sort of shape and style is it?
That is a great question. It's one that I had as I was reading the report, and I failed to get the information on what the current design is. I will circulate that to the committee after the meeting.
Yeah, that was something I had thought of as I was reading through this originally. There was a lot of work and effort went into the original, well, the current lights. There's a lot of work, like toing and froing on what they should look like and how they should reflect the something that was a bit more heritage. Like, unfortunately, obviously they haven't stood the test of time with the fairly harsh environment they're in. So we definitely need to do something about it. But it would be good to know what the design is to replace them, and is it going to look part, or is it going to be a modern light fitting that we can't do much with? So, but yeah, good to hear from you in due course.
Yeah, I will circulate what the actual design is, but I do believe that officers have obviously been very, very concerned about the look of the harbour area and ensuring that we're keeping to all of the design features that are currently down there. But I'll circulate that after the meeting.
I'm just going to add a comment really just to have it noted that the temporary fencing has been, while it's been quite good, it's still not preventing all access to the breakwater. We're still seeing people accessing the breakwater at night. They just walk further along the causeway and then where they can access it off almost all the way to Ramsay's extension. And also just noting the design that you've got in the drawing in the photo, I disagree with just for that reason. I don't think it will prohibit access, and just remembering that prohibiting access to the breakwater is a condition of the ORC resource consent.
Probably the question on that with just the two officers would be just around the, what does prohibiting mean? Obviously we've got signs up saying that access is prohibited. We're taking some effort to do what, to fence it off. We know that it's going to be very, very difficult to fence all of it off because it's almost impossible to build something that's going to be able to stand up to the pressure of rocks being thrown over the breakwater at times. So, are you satisfied that this is going to be doing enough to prohibit people? Also, if they are aware they are prohibited from accessing it?
I think it's doing our best endeavours without basically putting a 2.5 metre high security fence right along Sandy Bay, to prevent access off Sandy Bay up into the breakwater. So I think those are the options.
Yeah, I would say that providing we've signposted and people are aware that it's prohibited, and we have made some measure to fence off the area, which I believe that the proposal does. I think that is best endeavours. That's as much as we can do without fencing the entirety.
Yeah, just on that last comment, it's a bit facetious, but Darwin has a theory of evolution about that sort of thing. The street light renewals in the harbour, is the power down across the wharf for that already? Is it
there? Sorry, in response to your question, Councillor McCone, no, there isn't power there at the moment. There was power there historically. There were some issues with the line and there were some issues with the electrical cabling and the fuses there. They kept tripping out, so that line was shut down by Network Waitaki. Once we've got the ducts in place, Network Waitaki will be installing new electrical cabling for us very, very kindly. So we're just working through that ducting process at the moment, which, as I've said, is on hold at the moment because of the contaminated land issues.
Sorry, at what cost?
Are you asking the cost of the ducting and cabling and all of the installation, or are you asking for the cost of the contaminated land itself?
First part of your answer.
I can find out and provide that information to you after the meeting if you'd like.
Thank you, Dr. Agnew.
So just to clarify, I wasn't suggesting that we fence the whole breakwater off. I was acknowledging that the temporary fencing that is there at the moment is improved, and suggesting that the drawing won't be enough, that it should, if anything, it should be down onto the lower part of McAndrews Wharf, because people will come up onto the rocky area and stand by the fence. So if you're going to do it at all, it's better to have the fence where the temporary fence is rather than up on top of the breakwater. Okay, there might be an increased cost, but I feel like this is a waste of time. This isn't even worth probably doing for the benefit and the cost. If you're going to do it, it needs to be down onto McKendrill's wharf. I wouldn't worry about doing that. It's not going to help.
Thanks for those comments, Doug. I haven't seen this one. I didn't read when I read it. It's temporary, so if you have further context.
Yeah, if we can just clarify though, because I think at the start of the meeting you were saying the temporary fencing wasn't working where it was currently either, because they're going further down. So the question before was, is this doing enough to prevent access? And if the temporary fence isn't providing access, I'm not quite sure how moving it down there resolves the situation either.
Well, it would be even worse if you took it away, though, in favour of putting a fence up on top of the breakwater, is what I'm suggesting. So yeah, while it's improved the situation, people are still accessing it, but more people will access it if you take it away in favour of this design of fencing. Does that help? Yeah, I don't know how. I mean, I acknowledge that I don't know how you block access to the entire thing because signage doesn't cut it. People just walk straight past the signage. It depends on whether you're happy with the risk of people being up there at night down the far end. But just what I'm suggesting is that this design of fence isn't going to solve the problem. It's going to make it worse.
I don't know if other members are aware of what's currently there or not, but maybe it's a discussion that we could have follow-up discussion as we move into the busier season. More car park projects underway. It's been having some pretty positive feedback. That's along with the slipway project. A lot of positive feedback coming back from that. And good to see some boats up there being painted.
It's just a whole lot of things going through my head. So we've got this Harbour subcommittee, which I'm not part of, I'm just sitting in here to learn and listen. But does this involve the economic development part of the system? Does it involve the Whitestone Civic Trust? Does it involve the master plan? Is it all mixed together so everybody's going in the same direction without doubling up and spending a lot of time over the same things?
Yeah, I think to add, that's where we have our community representatives as well. It's pretty well represented against heritage, the use, contracting, the environmental sides of ticking all those boxes. So I'd say yes, it is pretty well thought out together. But
further question, the funding or the profit margin that's coming out of the penguin colony, where is that money going to?
One for Dr. Emu, sorry.
So I'm not sure if you're aware, you probably were at one of the meetings we had recently. The Tourism Waitaki Board have agreed to no funding from council for the coming financial year that we've just started, which means that the profits for the penguin colony go to support all of the marketing work that Tourism Waitaki are going to be doing. So basically we have no reliance on council over Tourism Waitaki Limited in terms of its operations.
Thank you for that. So they have an input into what we're talking about today as well.
Tourism Waitaki through me.
Clark.
I just wanted to ask about the locomotive shed. It was kind of the last piece of red sheds.
Yes, so yes, the locomotive shed. We didn't have sufficient budget to be able to complete the locomotive shed. So we've completed all of the other works, but essentially if we're going to do anything further with the locomotive shed, then we'll need additional funding for it. And because of that, obviously we haven't progressed. But in the meantime, I suppose we're still trying to work on some things with Oamaru Steam and Rail. And once we've been able to work on some of those, we might be able to seek additional funding to finish dressing up the locomotive shed as well.
Do we have any more questions from the floor on any other items? Councillor Ryan?
Just jumping ahead to the harbour moorings. What communication has there been with mooring owners? Has there been anything from us or OIC just about the changes to make sure everyone's clear?
Yes, yep. All of the mooring owners should have received a letter by now. Is essentially outlining the changes in the process from here. OIC will also be fully aware of what we're planning on doing, and there'll just be a process that's essentially being undertaken. Kevin may be able to talk more specifically about that as a mooring owner.
Yes, I've been talking to mooring owners about it. They're happy with the change. I haven't had any negative feedback on the whole thing. I've been in discussions with the harbour master over more the nuts and bolts and how it's going to work, and it's going smoothly.
As you have this one more last chance for questions before we close the meeting. If everyone's happy there and flesh that one out, was asked that we Harbour Area Subcommittee received a notice of information. Moved Mayor Kircher. Seconded Councillor Ryan. All those in favour? Against? That's carried, and declare the meeting closed.